Good afternoon and welcome to, and I'll call to order, the May 2023 Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. My name is Terry Kerr, and to my left is Ms. Rebecca Longmire, and my right, Mr. Mike Moyers, our Law Director. Madam Clerk, if you would call the roll for us, please.
Curtis Brown. Jonathan Repass.
Here.
Doug Lloyd. Garrett Holt.
Here.
Cecil Anderson. Terry Kerr.
Here.
Sherry Garrett.
Present.
Rebecca Longmire.
Present.
Paul Huff.
Here.
We have 7 members present.
7 members of 9 present. And if you would please, Ms. Garrett, do our Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, members of the Board of Zoning Appeals are volunteers from each commission district. We do not receive compensation for our work on the board or training that we attend. As a quasi-judicial body, we avoid ex parte conversations and conduct our business in accordance with the Opens Meeting Act. If you would, Steve, let us know who is with you today.
I have myself, Steve Elliott, Kim Jarnigan, Kelly Vaughn, Mike Reynolds from Knox Planning, and I have Michael Trydell here as an inspector.
Wonderful, thank you. Our voting procedure requires 5 positive votes for a motion to be approved regardless of the number of the board members that are present, and today we do have 7 members present. If I could have a call to approve the minutes of last month.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, so approved. The Knox County Board of Zoning Appeals is authorized to grant variances and hear other matters by the Tennessee Code and the Knox County Zoning Ordinance. Specifically, these laws prescribe parameters required to grant a variance. The burden of proving the grounds for a variance request rests upon the applicant. For each matter, the clerk will read the request into the record. I will then ask if the applicant is present, and then I'll ask if there's opposition or other speakers who wish to present. You do not have to come forward at this time. Once we determine the speakers for the item, we will call on governmental agencies such as Knox County Codes, Planning, or Engineering to make statements regarding the facts pertinent to the property and the background of the request. Board members may ask questions of the governmental agencies once they have made their statements. Then I'll call upon the applicant to come forward and state their name and address for the record and present your evidence and reasoning supporting the granting of a variance. If there is no opposition, the applicant has 10 minutes to present their case. If there is opposition, the applicant and opposition each will have up to 15 minutes. After the applicant's presentation, board members may ask questions of the applicant. Then I'll call for opposition or other parties who have up to 15 minutes to speak as well. These 15 minutes applies to all parties, so if there are multiple parties that wish to speak, please determine how you're going to divide your time beforehand. After the opponents speak, the board members may ask questions of the opponents. Finally, there'll be discussion by the case by the board, during which time commissioners may ask further questions of parties that have already testified. Then the board will make any determinations it deems necessary. Our bylaws allow an applicant at the initial hearing on a matter to request a deferral of 30 or 60 days without prejudice. And in the event of a deferral of an application or failure to appear, any opponents may be heard on the record at the meeting where the applicant they oppose appears on the agenda. Okay. Mr. Moyers, if you would please swear in any speakers.
All right, everybody who is here and plans to speak to this board on any matter that is before the board today, please need to stand and raise your right hand. If you plan to address this board, either for or against any matter on the agenda, please stand and raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm testimony you're going to give today be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. All right, be seated, please.
Okay, we have a full house, so if everyone will please make sure your cell phones are silenced. right, I don't think that we have any agenda changes or corrections today.
We, yes.
Oh, we do, yeah, we do.
We believe item 4B
Yes.
would need a reduction from 50 to 15 versus 50 to 30.
Okay, thank you. Right, so on 4B, they'll be asking for a waiver of the front yard setback from 50 feet to, you believe, 15 feet rather than 30.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, if you would like to read the first item.
First item is 4A. It's a request of Doris Karina Estrada Aguilar for a waiver of fenced play area from 2,900 square feet to 600 square feet and waiver of 7 parking spaces to 5 parking spaces located at 120 Durwood Road, CLT map 131, Group NC, parcel 00917, Zone CA in the 5th Commission District.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? Okay, do we have any opposition? Okay, if you would please come to the podium. And do we have any statements from Knox County Code Stormwater Planning?
Yes,
Anybody?
I want to make a correction, and I want to apologize. This is the third daycare that I've been involved with this month, and I said this was a drop-off, like a Mother's Day out type program, and this is not. I had this one confused with the one across the street, so
Okay.
this one is a full-blown daycare.
Okay. Okay, if you would state your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Doris Karina Estrada Aguilar. The address is 120 Durwood Road, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37922.
All right, if you could give us your reason and any evidence supporting your request.
Sure. Well, my business partner, Nelly Garcia, is also present here, and we are the owners of Inicios 123 Language Learning Center, located at the address I just said. We're looking forward to extend our services by providing a bilingual preschool. On pursuing this, we were suggested to and would like to request a variance through the Board of Zoning Appeals to reduce or eliminate some of the county daycare standards so that they align with the state standards. As of today, we have been recommended by approval by the state fire marshal and Knox County Environmental as well. But in requesting the Knox County Fire Inspection, we were asked to contact the Building Codes Department. Then we were told that the first step will be to get approved use and review by the Planning Office for a daycare in a commercial zone. When contacting the County Codes Office, they feel that we could request a variance through this board. That is why we would like to proceed with this request and hopefully be favored with your decision.
The request is waiver of fenced play area from 2,900 square feet to 600 square feet and a waiver of 7 parking spaces to 5 parking spaces.
That is correct. Actually, when getting the approval by the state, we were told that we can have up to 12 kids with the fence area that we have in order to comply and respect the 50 square feet per child. All the children inside and out, they are going to be grouped by age, and also, we're going to be 4 teachers all together. So when the 12 kids are going to be outside, the other teachers are going to remain inside with the rest of the kids so we can comply with that law.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions from the board? This moment, give us just a second.
Sure.
You said 12, no more than 12 outside at a time?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
For codes, what's the difference between what the county requires and what the state requires?
The county requires 2,500 square feet of outdoor play area for up to 20 kids, and then 100 square feet additional for every kid above the 20, which got us to the 2,900.
Does it matter whether the kids are all out at the same time, if they're going to divide and have some out part of the time?
It doesn't. It just says 2,500 for 20 kids, for facilities up to 20 kids, and then 100 square feet for each additional.
Thank you.
Okay.
As far as the playground, are you going to have any playground equipment or anything like that there?
We basically are going to have like very limited playground equipment. Our, playground area is going to be used more like in a Montessori way, where it's like self-learning. We will have like equipment that you can put in and take out. It's not going to stay permanent. So, our goal is for the children to learn the Spanish language indoors or outdoors. So that's basically the equipment that we're going to be using. Like we put pads of different colors and different amounts, and we can remove them at any time, like I said.
And how many students will you have total? What is your total occupancy if you were full?
Yes, we've been approved by the state to have up to 24 children in the area.
And what ages are you? What ages?
2.5 up to 5 years old.
Go ahead, Ms.
Your program, first of all, I want to commend you for the program. I think it's an absolutely amazing program, teaching
Thank you.
children a second language. It's
Thank you.
wonderful. I commend you for what you're doing. My question is, you said you're not going to have any, are you divided up into classes with different teachers? And one class goes outside of time, is that how you plan on working the outdoor time in with the structure?
Correct. Yes, we're going to have up to 4 teachers. All these 4 teachers are bilingual teachers with Spanish language as their first language. And the main purpose of this is that we are offering something different in the area of being the Spanish language being taught at all times, like I said. So indoors and outdoors, the Spanish language is the main purpose of this, language learning center. And we started just by teaching few kids because as per the state, I'm following all the rules. We have very limited capability right now because until everything gets approved. But we've been looking to expand our services because the families are requesting for more hours. We started a waiting list that is even growing and growing. The tenant where we are located now is actually offering the next door business, office. We've told him that we are in the process of doing this. So he said, well, we are going to wait for you. So hopefully in the near future, if everything goes well, we can be expanding our services to the next door office as well. Everything we've been working through the Tennessee Department of Human Services in Nashville, very closely with our pre-licensure supervisor, which is Ms. Rachel Pogg. And we've been dealing with this since August of last year. So she's been, doing all the meetings for the inspections and all that. When we come through this, it's like, okay, we still need to get some approvals from the Knox County rather than the state that we've been approved there.
Okay.
Is there space to make a larger play area if it's required?
Yes, actually, whenever we get, it's like a circle because we would like to expand the fence area, but without the income, because of the very limited kids that we have right now, we are unable to do that right now. But as soon as we have more students, the tenant already told us that we can use all the 4 offices back space, to fence the area. So right now we're using 2 offices at the back, which is the 600 square feet, and if we double that, it's going to be 1,200 square feet.
But with the offices that you currently have, you could
It's
not
just one office, but when we use the second office, the owner of the building, he owns, those 4 offices altogether. He's just renting one. So basically, he just said he talked to the other tenant, and they are okay if we use the back space.
But to make sure I'm hearing you correctly, the space that you have now, it would not be possible to go beyond the 600 square feet.
We do have the 600 square feet fence right now.
Could you make that 800 square feet or 900 square feet if you had to, with the current space that you have?
Okay, come again, sorry?
Yeah, so with the current space that you have, could you expand beyond 600 square feet?
Yes, absolutely. We can expand up to 1,200 square feet.
Not at this time, though.
Not at this time because of the income that we cannot have yet because of the limited students that we have at this time.
The current space they have has 600 square feet at the back of it.
Correct.
If they expand into building 119, then they would gain an additional 600 feet of play area by expanding into that area,
That is correct.
correct?
Yes,
And
correct.
at that point, you would have more children as well. You'd
Exactly.
have 24 on one side, 24 on another side.
Exactly.
Correct, okay.
That is
And
correct.
the age groups, we made.
2.5 up to 5-year-old.
2.5 to 5.
Mhm.
Okay. Mr. Huff?
I believe what I'm hearing is that regardless of whether you purchase the property next to you or not, you're not going to be able to come in compliance with the Knox County code requirements for play area size. Is that correct? You're not going to be able to get to 2,900 square feet.
That is correct.
I think, Mr. Anderson, this is in your district. Did you have anything you wanted to add, or?
Steve, did we decide earlier that her request, everything is going to be up to standards with the state?
That's my understanding. The state required you to have 600 feet, correct? 600 square feet of outdoor play area?
Actually, yes, and the state just requires for me to have like any amount of kids, only if they have like 50 square feet per child outside. I can have 2, 3, 4, but I have to give them a 50 square feet area by kid. They've been there, they visited us, they gave us the recommendation for approval, so we are okay on their side.
And Mr. Anderson, I'm sorry, I've been trying to scroll through and find the requirement for the outdoor play area on the state website, and I can't find it. But I do see that she has a state license that's been issued to her, so they have approved her plan and approved that 600 square feet. So the state is okay with it.
So if we approve this request, being that the county's requirements is stricter, then we're going to be going against the county's restrictions and requirements.
Yes, we would be giving her a variance to the Knox County zoning ordinance requirements, but she would still meet the state requirements.
Mr. Huff?
Just for the matter, for the record, it's section 1240-04-01-.16 physical facilities, and it's paragraph 9B. Excuse me, 9A. Outdoor play areas shall contain a minimum of 50 square feet of usable play space for each child using the area at any one time.
Is that the state, did you say?
That is the state requirement.
So would we then look at that requirement for 24 members for children? And
Yes, the way I hear that and understand that is for kids that are on the playground. So if she had 24 kids out there at one time, she would need 1,200. What I think she's saying is she would only have 12 kids out there at any given time, so she would only need 600 square feet.
At the moment, until we are okay to, extend the area.
Ms. Garrett?
So you're also asking for variance on the parking spaces from 7 to 5 as required, and that's because?
According to the amount of children and the amount of teachers, we were told that we are short on 2 spaces, but the parents are only going to be dropping off and picking up, and we have we would like to offer 2 different schedules for parents to drop off and pick up, so we won't have a lot of people there at the same time.
And it was based on your lease?
Yes.
That they only gave you 5. So if you're going to expand over into the next door, would that double the lease, the spaces that you would be able to have for parking?
I believe so. If we expand to the next door office, we will be covered. That's what I've heard, and that's my understanding.
Okay.
Will she need to come back if she gets additional space to do this all over again for?
We would have to review it based upon square footage, but she's required 7 now. It may not require 14 to add the additional space. It may only require, it's based upon square footage, so she's already got the ones for the employees, so without looking at it, knowing the square footage, it'd be hard for us to say how many additional she would need.
Sure. And with the state requirement, is it 50 square feet per child enrolled or on the playground? On the playground, okay.
On the playground. But to expand on your point, if she gets the property next door, she's still not going to be able to meet the play area requirements, so we may be back here again talking about a variance for play area for the property next door. Right, Steve?
That's correct. If she expanded, it would require her to have additional play area, unless some way today, if you choose to grant the variance, we could go ahead and grant it for her operation. I'd probably refer to Mike on that. But, I think if she expanded, she would need another variance for the expansion.
I don't think I've ever seen this come before the board, where, not that it's, I guess, it might be irrelevant at this time, but I guess my concern would be, do we have other daycares that are out there? I'm sure we do, that are following what the county requirements are. And what would that do? I mean, I know what's in front of us is in front of us, but I just have to kind of look and see what it's going to do, for the future, you coming back to get more, et cetera. So I guess that's my little bit of a concern.
It's been our staff's recommendation anytime that we find these where we don't align with state standards, that we try to go back and amend our ordinance to align with the state requirements so we are more in line with them. Typically on these type facilities, she'll go get her state approval and then come to us. So she's got an approved floor plan and an approved outdoor play area, comes to us, and all of a sudden we say you got to have, triple the outdoor play area that the state required. So I think in the future, we would want to look to our ordinance to more align with what the state requirements are.
Okay. Mr. Huff?
My concern is that we're beyond the scope of the authority of this board to discuss a variance in this case. Nowhere in 6.60 is this kind of variance addressed that I can find.
Mr. Moyer's on that. Right.
It is not my role for this board, and it has never been my practice to tell this board what you can and cannot do beyond pointing you to the powers that you were given under 6.60.03 and 6.60.04. So that is your responsibility to read those sections and decide for yourself whether the matter that's before you meets the standards that are set out under 6.60.04.
If someone can point me to where in 6.60.04 it discusses variances for playground areas or anything of that nature, I'm perfectly willing to look at it, but I can't find it. Can someone help me with that?
I can.
Go ahead.
According to 6.6004, the purpose of the variance is to modify the strict application of the specific requirements of the ordinance in the case of exceptionally regular, narrow, shallow, steep lots, or exceptional physical conditions where such strict application would result in practical difficulty or unnecessary hardship which would deprive the owner of the reasonable use of their land. I'll agree that it doesn't, this is just me, that it doesn't mention the state, but if the state has approved and she is meeting all of the state requirements, if we don't grant the variance, we are causing unnecessary difficulty and not granting her the use of the land that she has that meets the state requirements. I think that codes has said they're going to work to try to make sure that state and county align, which would save a lot of problem for people. But she is in a business that requires state approval, and state will inspect. State will make sure she has met what she needs. So I think we're very much in the way of saying, yes, we can deal with this matter because it is causing her unnecessary hardships.
But is that unnecessary hardship an issue of irregularity, narrowness, shallow, steep, or other exceptional physical conditions? I don't see that.
Well, I know you don't, but I do.
All right, Ms. Garrett.
This is directed to either, I'm not sure who can answer it, whether it be codes or planning. If this board decided it was beyond our scope and we're not able to grant this, what could be the next step, or what would be the next step? Is there one?
If it's not the scope of this board to grant the variance, there's no other place to go. She just wouldn't be able to open her business. She couldn't meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance. Planning Commission doesn't have the authority to grant variances of the zoning ordinance. They couldn't relieve her of the requirements. If this body deemed they didn't have the authority, then we would just deny the permit.
I do feel like your comment with the state regulations and what the county has written, and you trying to kind of mash that together, make it one, or at least us match what the state has in the with their regulations, makes me feel a little bit better. And the fact that with the playground, it's I feel like it's small. I do. It matches, I guess what you're supposed to do per the state with the 50 square feet per child. I personally feel like that's low. You have the 12 children only outside, then that's going to meet your requirement. If you have any playground equipment out, which you said you would not, that helps a little bit. And I suppose you're monitored in some way to make sure you're not exceeding that. They're tiny people and not 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds, so that's a little different in size, I suppose. But it'd be a little bit more for me to add to it, Ms. Longmire.
May I say something?
Sure.
Okay, when we just started this process on extending our services, we obviously contacted the Tennessee Department of Human Services in Nashville, and first here, locally, and the first thing they told us is that we need all the approvals by the state. So we just been working with that since August of last year. When they told us that, we looked for everywhere and everybody in the child care pre-licensing process. And while we get approvals from them, then we come back again to Knox County. And we've been told that we need to request all this process. So yes, it's been, hard to be here today because of all the process that we've been through. But we would love to have this bilingual preschool, and we will do whatever it takes. So we are just requesting, for all your help if possible, and we are licensed teachers. We know what we're doing. The care and the safety of the children is our top priority. We are not going to do anything that is outside the law by any chances, because it's been hard and it's been a lot of work from us as well.
Understood.
This is being judged as a daycare facility. Is that right?
Yes.
What if it were considered to be a school?
I'm sorry, Mike, I couldn't.
So what if it were instead considered to be a school? Would we still have the 2,900 square foot requirement?
No.
Because what I keep hearing from this lady is that this is as much a school as it is a daycare.
Exactly. We've been telling that people from the state and here as well, but we keep getting the same answer. It's considered a daycare, even though it's a childcare, even though it's a learning center, even though it's whatever you call it, for us, it's a daycare. So we've been telling them from the beginning, well, we are learning, I mean, we're teaching something different, like it's not just a daycare, but we've been listening to the same answer over and over again, so.
Educational facilities are for 5 and older. It's the 5 and under that makes it a daycare.
Just,
Mr. Holt? Mr. Holt, I think you had your light on next.
Yeah, I think there's obviously a handful of issues at play here with, obviously the county requirements relative to the state requirements, which do differ. I do think just based on, the nature of this commercial property, there are some regularities in terms of size constriction that obviously make it difficult for her. But, I always look at these issues as, one, how can we help someone within reason have the highest and best use of their property? Like Ms. Garrett said, I think this is bringing a valuable asset to the community and to the area. But more importantly, what are the deleterious effects or negative consequences should we approve this? And, knowing that she is still meeting state regulations for the size requirements per child, I don't really see any negatives inherently, that we're generating by approving this. The only negatives I see is that we're not allowing her to start a business and serve the children in this community. I would go ahead and make a motion that we approve this petition to waive the 2,900 square foot requirement to 600 square feet, as well as the waiver of 7 parking spaces to 5 parking spaces.
Second.
Mr. Huff, did you have something you wanted to add before?
I was just curious if she could petition county commission to have the ordinance changed to align with the state.
I mean, basically, any citizen can talk to their county commissioner, and any commissioner can initiate the process, or the planning commission can initiate the process of amending the zoning code. That's a legislative matter. So, yeah, there is a legislative fix to this.
Right, which would be,
Well, right now, and if you would, Mr. Holt, give us your reasoning for requesting the approval.
I would say the reasons being size restriction.
That one?
There we go. I think I hit the button. I would state the justification is size constriction of the commercial property that she's currently leasing.
And I would add, too, that the state as well approved. Being state approved as well.
I know it.
Okay, we have a motion on the table with a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? No. Okay, we have 6 ayes and 1 no, so you are approved.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, if you could read 4B.
Request of Faustino Ruiz for waiver of front yard setback from 50 feet to, it's been amended to 15 feet, from 50 feet to 15 feet. Located at 8903 Andersonville Pike, CLT map 018, parcel 176, property zone Ag in the 8th Commission District.
Is the applicant present? Okay, do we have any opposition? Do we have opposition? No? Okay, if the applicant would come forward, and I think you need to be sworn in as well.
Mr. Ruiz, would you come to the podium, please?
Yes, you can. If you'd like to.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind letting him know he needs to be sworn in, so Mr. Moyers will
Okay.
swear him in. You can,
Tu nombre y tu dirección.
Yeah, my name is Faustino Ruiz Juarez, and I live in 8903 Andersonville Pike, Powell, Tennessee.
All right, we need to swear him in. If he would ask him to raise his right hand.
Levantas la mano derecha.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm
Levanta la mano.
that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Sí, ahí yo.
Did he understand that?
Que si entendiste lo que te dijeron ahorita, que estás jurando que decir la verdad.
Sí.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, he does.
Okay, do we have any comments from codes?
Están preguntando si tienen
We do not have any comments this time.
que no tienen
Okay. If you would let us know your reason for the variance and give us evidence supporting your request.
la razón de tu varianza y que muestres evidencia. ¿Cuál es tu razón?
Oh, porque hice un building sin su permiso de ellos, que no fue aprobado.
¿Y qué quieres que te lo que okay?
Pues que lo aprueben y pues si
Pero
tengo que
sabías que estaba haciendo algo malo
Sí,
o no sabías?
sí sabía yo.
Well, he's basically telling me that he's here because he started the construction of a building without the approvals that he needed, and that's why he's here.
Ma'am, we'll need your name and address also. I know you gave it earlier, but as his interpreter.
You've been sworn in. If you could just give your name and address. For the record. Sorry.
I'm Doris Carina Estrada Aguilar. My address is 120 Dorwell Road, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37922.
Okay, so he started a building that he had not yet gotten approval for, and it is now not in the position it needs to be in compliance with what the setbacks are. Would that be correct, Steve?
¿Sí?
Yes.
¿Entendiste lo que te dijo? Yes.
Okay, well, can you move it to where you're in compliance?
¿Lo puedes mover para que esté dentro de las reglas de ellos?
Si lo muevo tengo pisos de cemento y entonces yo no sé cómo haría con el piso de cemento.
He would like to do that. He doesn't really know how to do it.
He doesn't know how to move it. Steve, were you trying to add something?
Tiene base de cemento, dices,
I
¿verdad?
believe the building is constructed upon a concrete foundation, so it's not a mobile structure. It
Okay.
couldn't be moved without, short of tearing it down, jackhammering up the concrete, and repouring the foundation in a compliant location.
Sí, entiendes eso, ¿verdad?
Pero también si hay formas cómo hacer. Yo estoy
Could
dispuesto
you
a
ask him
pagar.
why he started building it before he got approval?
¿Por qué empezaste a construir antes de tener todas esas aprobaciones?
Porque el señor que me lo vendió me dijo que yo no necesitaba permiso porque no tiene electricidad, no tiene agua.
He's saying that he was told that he can do that by the person who sold the land to him. He told him that he does not have any power, any water, any services right there. He was just told that he can do what he did.
Okay, have you had any complaints from the neighbors?
¿Tienes alguna queja de los vecinos?
No, nada, nada.
No that he knows of.
Okay.
When he said he didn't have electricity, power, anything like that, water, for that building only?
Cuando dices que no tienes electricidad, no tienes agua, no nada, ¿es para ese edificio únicamente?
Sí, es para ese edificio.
Yes, that's what he says.
Is it going to be used as a dwelling eventually? A
¿Vas a
house?
utilizarlo para una casa después, eventualmente?
No, para una casa.
Entonces, ¿para qué lo vas a ocupar?
Para mis herramientas, es todo.
Okay, he says that he's not going to use it as a home in any intention. His only intention is to have his, for his work purposes, to put in there all what he uses for his work.
Thank you. For codes, what is the usual step when a building is not, has not been given approval?
I'm sorry,
What is the usual step taken if a building is erected without approval?
here. Well, let's back up. If it met all applicable setbacks, we would have an architect or an engineer write letters for us on the foundations, the construction, the structural part, and then we would accept those and approve it. In this case, it doesn't meet setbacks, so we have to come here to get a variance to the setbacks.
Mr. Huff?
I'm looking at your site, and it is definitely an irregular site, three-sided. All the interior angles are acute. Narrowness and topography are not an issue. The proposed use is not excluded. Is that correct, Steve?
Yeah, no, it's an accessory structure, so it would be allowed in the zone.
And in my opinion, the variance is the minimum necessary adjustment to allow reasonable use of the property. I don't see that a variance would be contrary to the public interest, and I believe granting the variance would be in the spirit of the ordinance.
Okay.
I think it qualifies.
Okay. Do you have any other questions or comments? So, would you like to make a motion?
I move that pursuant to 6.60.04 and all the subsections that I just mentioned, that this variance request be approved.
Second? So we have a motion. I'm sorry. Yes. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, you have been approved with a vote of 6-1.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will ask board members, please pull your mics down. For some reason, it's not picking up well in the recording, so make sure you're speaking really clearly into the mic.
Yeah, we're having trouble hearing today as well. I don't know if it's something with the sound system or what.
Yeah, they do. I think Mr. Murphy had sent a email the last meeting trying to get some work done to him, so. Okay, our next item.
The next item is 4C. It's a request of Bruce Hill for waiver to allow internal illumination of the church sign located at 6500 Strawberry Plains Pike, CLT map 084, parcel 177, property zone Ag in the 8th Commission District.
Is the applicant present?
Yes.
Okay, do we have any opposition?
Yes.
Okay, for right now, if we could have codes give us any comments that you would have?
Yes, what's in question here today is the church sign. From looking at historical aerials, the sign was built sometime in the 60s. It potentially didn't conform with the ordinance when it was built, or the ordinance after it was adopted. So it would have been a legal, non-conforming sign. Sometime in late 21, early 22, the sign was refaced, new lighting put in. It's our interpretation or determination that the sign would have had to conform with the ordinance that would allow a church in the ag zone to have a sign, but the sign has to be indirectly illuminated. So a question is, by refacing the sign, do they have to bring it up to current ordinance? And is the sign, we consider the sign to be directly illuminated, not indirectly illuminated.
Okay. If the applicant would come to the podium. If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Bruce Hill. It's 6500 Strawberry Plains Pike, 37914.
And if you would give us your reason for the request? And
Yes, we
your
are
evidence supporting.
requesting internal illumination of a previously internally illuminated sign since it's building. And I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Nichols to speak on our behalf for that.
Okay, you were sworn in, correct, Mr. Nichols?
Yes, I was.
Okay, and if you would please still state your name and address for the record?
Jeff Nichols, 210 Clear Branch Road, Loudon, Tennessee.
Go ahead.
I'm a representative of the sign company that did the work, Storefront Concepts. And basically, there was, the church called, and they should be recommended for maintaining their sign, I should say. And they had outages in the sign. It was already internally illuminated. So we converted it to a edge-lit LED. It's a 12-volt system. It's not a 24-volt or anything higher with real high-intensity light. Matter of fact, the bulbs in it are a direct correlation to replacing the fluorescents that were in there. It's a sign white. And then we also replaced the faces and painted the cabinet. So, you know, they're trying to maintain their sign, trying to keep their sign in good condition. And how I feel is they've done the right thing by converting it to LEDs, fluorescents. I understand there's a problem with the brightness of the sign, and I will say it is probably brighter now than it was when we arrived because there were some bulbs out. So, like any sign, if you take half the bulbs out of it and they're not working, you put the bulbs back in, it's going to work. I don't think there would have been any question if we'd have just replaced the fluorescent bulbs and the ballast. Instead, we converted to LED, which I think is the right thing to do overall for the environment and just the cost for the people that maintain the sign.
I'm sure you do this a lot,
Yes, ma'am.
so I will assume that the way you have done this is in compliant with what you would do anywhere else and within any type of ordinances and rules and regs that you have to go by, I would say.
Yes, normally there's no request for permit on maintaining the sign. I think the Knox County ordinance says as long as you don't remove anything that's permanently attached, and obviously bulbs and ballast are not. So
Okay.
they have to be maintained.
All right. Does anyone have any comments? Go ahead.
This is considered an internal illumination. Because
Yes.
if you had to do an indirect illumination, what would you do to that sign?
We would actually have to take the bulbs out or turn them off, disconnect the electrical to them. We'd put a spotlight on each side of the sign and then shine it up to have external illumination. Be sort of like they do have a spotlight out there on their flag pole. And it would be that type of light. You can see that in the photo there, the spotlight. So we'd have to.
And it would still be LED.
We'd have two more of those. If they so choose, I mean, I would give them the option, but yes, I would recommend LEDs.
Thank you.
Oh.
Do you measure the output of the light? Like, I guess it's
We have not
lumens,
took a lumens reading on the light, no.
Has codes?
We don't have that capability. We normally ask the applicant to provide that to us.
Thank you.
So we don't know for sure if this is brighter or even less bright than the previous light was. That's not been measured.
Yeah, and I would have no historical reference for that.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't fix it. I didn't take a lumens reading before I replaced it, so I wouldn't have a
Thank you.
historical record.
Mr. Huff?
Can I ask codes a question? Where's the reference in the code to the definition of indirect lighting?
There is not one. It is our opinion that it is directly illuminated. And I think
You are aware that there are probably hundreds of signs lighted just like this, right, in Knox County?
Yes, and we deal with them on a complaint basis, and this one received a complaint, so.
Ms. Longmire?
For the lighting expert, do you consider, what did you say, internal? How do you phrase it?
The ordinance says it cannot be, it has to be indirectly illuminated.
For your definition then, sir, of indirect illumination, what do you see in your business?
It is internally illuminated.
No, but if I said I needed indirect, how would you?
If you need an indirect, I would either put a light above it, a gooseneck light shining on the face of it, or a spotlight shining up.
Okay, so you see that as two different types of illumination?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
But, and I'm not sure when that ordinance come into effect. This sign's been there a long time.
Yeah,
So it's not
there probably wasn't one then.
right. So, unless you increase the size of the sign, do something drastic to the sign, and that sign should be grandfathered in.
Yeah, I just wanted definition of the two
Okay,
types
yes,
of
ma'am.
lighting.
I think Code said something. Did you have something, Steve? Okay, Ms. Garrett?
This light was lit from the inside before they made those changes to it, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So if they had made any changes to it and just fixed the bulbs that were out in there, it still would be much brighter, probably be much brighter
Yes.
than it is now.
It'd still be an internally illuminated sign. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And if I can just clarify the work that you did on the sign for us. So you painted the outside, you
Yes.
replaced the internal lighting, and then only replaced the section that has like the marquee letters. So that was the,
Where we replaced both faces, the upper face and the reader board.
okay.
So it's the Mount Harmony Baptist Church face was also replaced.
But no other structure was removed and replaced?
No.
Foundation wasn't replaced? Poles
No.
were replaced? Okay.
Mr. Repass, here's the way the sign looked before, and then we have a photo of the way it looks today. Hold on, we'll get that up there for you. Here was before.
Okay, if there are, Mr. Huff?
Yes. Based on the work that you did to this sign compared to the cost of a new sign, what percentage of the cost of a new sign would you consider the work you did to be? Less than 50%?
Oh, considerably less than 50.
Thank you.
Okay, if y'all want to, if you have anything else you'd like to add, please do so. If not, we can get the opposition to come up, and then you still have time left. So
Okay.
you'd still have some time to talk.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, and if the opposition would come to the podium? And if you would, please state your name and address for the record, and you were sworn in, is that correct, sir?
Hi there.
You were sworn in, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, if you would state your name and address for the record.
Okay, my name is Cliff Honaker. My address is 6420 Strawberry Plains Pike. And if you look at that 162 acres next to the church, that's where I live.
Okay, and if you would
The
please-
farm that I live on is one of the oldest farms in Knox County. And the family relationship with that church goes back to 1874. And anyway, as you can see, when they built that, back in 2018, I went out to the church, and as the church, we had some issues with the boundary. We had some issues with their lights and a couple of other issues. And that meeting didn't go terribly well, and subsequent to that, they actually, instead of making the lights less bright, they made the lights they put in different higher intensity security lights, and they put in that sign. And we had a meeting with Sean Payne. If you remember, when was that? 2019, 2020, something like that. We had a meeting. Sean Payne, who was with your Knox County Codes, he came out on a Sunday night at 9 o'clock. The church elders were there. My wife was there, Jackie Kittrell, and I was there. And Sean stood on that property line right there. And he said to the church, he said, "Light trespass, your light may go to the property line, but it cannot go over the property line. Over the property line is light trespass." And then Sean stepped on one side, he said, "Light," stepped on the other side, "No light," and did that several times to make it very clear to them that if the light goes over the property line, that's light trespass. Sean pulled out a newspaper and showed them how bright and egregious their violation was. And so their response was to, I think, take down one light, that you took down one light pole that was closest to our property? Yeah, I think that's what they did. Well, anyway, then they put up this, they redid the sign. It's virtually a new sign in the old place. It's a remade sign, as you could see. It's a new sign. And so April 29th at 9:35 at night, I went out there and took my Apple 12 iPro phone, and so I took some pictures. I'd like to share them with you. Okay. Yeah. And as you can see from these pictures, the light shines 100 feet into our field. You can see my silhouette when I take a picture of it. And it's not just the sign. The sign is the brightest of all of the violation. But they're super bright lights that are literally 100 feet away from the property line are still shining into the property over 100 feet. If I park our white car on our gravel driveway, which is over 100 feet of property, you can see the cat's shadow as the cat walks across it. It's in violation. They know it's in violation, and I'm powerless to do anything to get them to change. And we live on a very beautiful farm, and it is awful to go outside and there's spotlights. We've asked them to put blinders, to put sheet metal or something around it so that when we go out and get in our car, we're not looking at these lights that are like something you'd see at a Supermax prison. It's not neighborly, and I don't know what to do about it. I'm at a loss what to do about it.
Could you point where the house is? I didn't mean to interrupt. I just want to see where your house is. Okay, that's what I thought.
That's it.
To make sure. And where's
That's
the
it.
sign? If you could point to the sign from there? Okay.
Yeah,
thank
the
you.
sign is right there, and that whole field right there is part of the farm property.
Are there
And
trees?
the sign is 78 feet from the property line. You can see the red line. The property we live on is right there, 78 feet from the property line to the sign. And if you take that little box down, there's another sign, there's a canvas sign that is at the 300 feet mark. That's where this sign needs to be, is where the canvas sign is. That's 300 feet, and that's where that sign belongs. And you know, I would greatly appreciate you looking at these pictures and seeing how we can get the church to get in compliance with their light trespass. And the illogic of it all is that, and I have asked that the signs, I've been there for 37 years, and for 37 years, and this was just like a week or so ago, Pastor Bruce, there was a car at 11 o'clock at night parked up in the parking lot, and there were people milling about in a car. And for 37 years, whenever a stranger is in that parking lot, it doesn't matter what time of night it is, I'll go investigate. I'll call or I'll text the pastor and let them know that there's this going on. I have tried to be a good neighbor to these people for 37 years, and I would just like a little reciprocity.
Okay, do you have anything else you want to hold? You said we still have some time. We can ask some questions if you'd like to hold for a moment.
Yeah, I would just ask that there not be a variance, and I would like that the church they did a $1.7 million renovation on the church. They are a well-heeled church. You can see that they have acres of parking. They have the resources to do this sign correctly, but they essentially made a brand new sign when they took the old sign down or remodeled it. It's a new sign, and it's viciously bright, and we would really like it 300 feet away.
Steve, when the sign was renovated, remodeled, did that do anything to with it being a pre-existing?
It increased the light intensity, as you'll see when you...
I'm asking codes right now, just 1 second for me. So when that change was made, did it do anything to to that comment of to permit continued operation of a pre-existing non-conforming?
It was our opinion and interpretation that when the sign was renovated, it would have to meet the current ordinance.
Okay.
Which, there's some confusion here.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be 300 feet away.
Okay.
If he's stating if it is directly illuminated, it has to be 300 feet away, but it can't be, in our opinion, directly illuminated because it's in the ag zone on a church. It has to be indirectly illuminated. And it can be half of the side yard setback.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Longmire?
First of all, sir, we can only deal with the sign.
I'm sorry?
We can only deal with the sign right now. We can't talk about any other lighting. Is there a difference when the leaves are on the trees at your house? Not in your driveway, but at your house. Does that help mitigate the lighting?
Well, when we go out to our cars, there are, and again, I know that you can't deal with these issues, but I've asked the church repeatedly, the sign for the flagpole, they have all these different super intense spotlights. And we've asked them to put shielding around it because you go and we're old.
I understand that, but right now we have to just deal with the sign. That's all
Yeah.
we can deal with right now. There may be a time for the other.
Well, if the light of the sign goes into our property, it's light trespass according to Sean Payne with the Knox County
I
codes.
understand that, but it's only right now, it only is on your driveway, is that correct? I know it's a trespass.
It's on this 100 and something feet field that's in front of us, and I would prefer that light trespass not to be there.
I understand that. I have a question for the sign person, and I'm sorry, sir, I don't remember your name. If you come forward, please. Even though our codes say the sign should be indirectly lit, if it stays internally lit, is it possible to lower the amount of lumens in that by using fewer bulbs or a smaller bulb?
Yes, ma'am. It would be possible.
That would be possible to make it not so shiny, but still readable.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And then I have one follow-up question for the sign as well. When you look at the new sign, there's a round section at the top with, I guess, MH that's illuminated. Was that there on the previous sign?
That was not there. I mean, if you look at the old sign, it's a completely different sign. See that sign and the other sign, they're two different signs. So they've rebuilt, the base may be the same, and certainly the bell is the same, but everything else looks like they've made a new sign. And given that they made a new sign, shouldn't that be at the 300-foot distance?
So Jeff, can you clarify the round sign at the top, was that's something that was added?
That was something that was added to the, you see the horns?
Come to the mic, please. We have to
that are
record
coming
this.
up there.
Come to the mic so we can hear
Oh,
you.
sorry. You see where the horns and wings come up there? That round circle was added right there.
In the horns and wings section, is that the same as the previous, or was that replaced as well?
That was reskinned, and painted, but I mean, I wouldn't call it replaced. I would call it repaired.
Okay, so that structure is the same as the previous
Yes.
structure.
No, you did a heck of a job because it looks brand new to me.
Thank you.
Good job. I just want it a few hundred feet over.
Did the previous sign, sir, I'm sorry, not you.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I forgot your name. What's
Yes,
your
ma'am.
name? Did the previous sign, it was lit, correct?
The previous sign was lit, had nothing near that intensity.
Okay, you had no problem with the previous sign and the lighting? You didn't have
I
any
had,
issues with it?
again, when you look at the pictures that I've shown you, you can see.
Did you have an issue with the previous sign?
I did not have an issue with the light on the previous sign. I had an issue with the fact that they had spotlights shining onto the property.
Yeah, we're not talking about the spotlights,
Right.
just the sign, okay.
Okay.
Mr. Huff?
Question for codes. What level of maintenance or changes to a sign triggers compliance with current code requirements if it was grandfathered in before the codes came into effect?
It's not in writing, Mr. Huff, but it's been our policy that we say if you do more than 50% of the value of the sign, then it should have to meet the current regulations.
If I heard correctly, the work that was done on the sign was well less than 50% of the cost of the sign.
No, that was what he testified, yes.
Well, he's the sign guy, as he would know, right?
Yes, he is the sign guy. We think it was more than 50%, but he is the sign guy. They changed, in our opinion, the entire face and the top, but I would.
There's more than that to a sign, though. So assuming he's the sign guy and he is sworn to tell the truth, I would assume that it was less than 50%.
Yes, we.
Ms. Garrett?
When was this sign revamped?
I think sometime in late 21, early 22, is that?
Yeah,
That's just sometime in that time frame.
Okay.
I have a question for my sign guy. Are you aware of the codes for sign illumination in Knox County?
Yes, ma'am, pretty much. I mean, obviously for every sign we do, we check, but,
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So the reasoning by putting internal illumination instead of indirect, which is what the codes require, what was your reasoning on that?
It was just a replacement. It was already internally illuminated sign. So it was just a, if it had been externally illuminated, somebody wanted it internally illuminated, then I would have had to stop and check, but, or I would have thought to check, but so now the sign had been there for so long, it was internally illuminated, it was to me, a no-brainer.
Gotcha.
Here's what we're talking about, and I've given them a copy of that picture. Your sign is going way over into the property. Does that seem right?
Steve, may I ask you, we have some photos as well that y'all took for us, I think. Is that correct? You had visited the property? I think we had 3 visitors to the property from
We've
codes.
visited the site 3 times, twice at night, once during the afternoon. In the 2 night visits, we didn't document a violation of light trespass.
Okay, we're seeing some photos as well. Can we,
This is one of the pictures that I showed them. This is the illumination from the sign, and that's coming over to the property. And Sean Payne, and the property line is right there.
Seeing his photos, I think that is light trespass, but our inspection staff did not see that, did not witness that. But
okay,
we included photos in
Yes.
the packet that were from our inspection.
okay. And what type of camera was used?
We used an iPhone
Okay.
12 Pro? 12 Pro,
I know.
bro.
We work for the government. We don't get the pro version.
Yeah, this was no flash.
And this probably was not either. So, yeah, I would say not either. Mr. Huff?
Yes. Since this sign was installed prior to the current code being in existence, and since the repair to the sign was less than 50% of the cost of the sign, that does not trigger required compliance with current code based on what I'm hearing. I therefore make a motion that this variance, that this does not require variance, and that the sign be allowed to exist as it is.
A second.
I'd like to make a comment about that. It would be so easy if the church and the neighbors could agree, particularly the church, to lessen the light, the brightness of the sign by either replacing some of the bulbs with lower lumens or taking out some of the bulbs, something to, it could be such an easy fix to keep the neighborhood happier. And it would be a really, I think, a generous and loving thing for people to do, to say, for our sign, we can make it less bright. It would be nice.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Oh, Mr. Holt, did you have?
Yeah, I know there's a motion, but Steve, is what Paul said accurate? I just wanted to confirm that with the grandfathering in of regulations, because when the sign was built.
That's correct. If this board feels as though the repairs or the work that was done was under 50%, then the sign would remain legally non-conforming.
Thank you.
I would like to point out that the addition to the top of the sign is new and is an expansion of both the sign face and the illumination of the sign.
Thank you.
It is.
And I view the top section as well as almost another sign attached to this sign. So it doesn't seem to me that this is just replacing lighting or even refurbishing a sign. We've added a sign on top of it.
And I can see that it would be 50% less than a brand new sign, but I don't see that it's 50% less than what's there. So I can't support that.
Okay, so do we have a motion on the floor? Do we have a substitute motion or? All right, so we have a motion on the floor with a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, let's do a roll call on that. A roll vote.
Jonathan Repass,
No.
Garrett Holt, Cecil Anderson,
Yes.
Terry Kerr,
Yes.
Sherry Garrett,
No.
Rebecca Longmire,
No.
Paul Huff,
Yes.
and members Curtis Brown and Doug Lloyd are absent.
Okay, so it has been, it's 4-3, yes, we are allowing the continuation of the internal illumination of the sign. So
So the sign's not going to be moved, and and there's no way to enforce them to make the sign where it's not, light's not trespassing onto our property.
Steve, codes?
I'm going to back up.
Don't we need
I'm back-
5
Yeah, I'm
affirmative
sorry, I'm going
votes?
to back up. I apologize. We had spoken previously about doing a majority, and we have not put that in motion, so I apologize. I'm going to back up on that. We do need 5 votes for it to be approved, so we are at 4-3 at this point. So does anybody want to talk this out anymore? Unless we have to keep going. No?
Well, I would gladly volunteer to help get a off-road forklift, and we simply pick the thing up and move it down 200 feet.
It's not
That's
going to be moved.
Yeah,
no.
that's not going to happen.
What
Or at
might
least probably not
happen
by them.
if the church could agree to lessen the brightness of the sign? Is that a possibility? No, I
No.
understand that's not the issue. I just want to ask,
The
because
church,
it might change my vote.
the church has cooperated in some capacities, and they made allowances. They did ask us to,
Could you use the mic, sir, please?
oh, I'm sorry, at the request of the complaint, asked us to put some shields around the spotlights, and the church did pay us to come back out there and do that. The church has acquiesced.
Oh, I'm sure they have. I'm just wondering
and so,
about if that's a possibility.
Which has nothing to do with the sign at this point, but that has been.
I think what she's saying is the LED lights that's there now, you mentioned that they were really bright. Are they not any way of being able to replace those lights, even though keeping them LED, but making it less density?
What you could buy a soft white or different, but in the sign business we try to stick with a sign white.
No, that's not the point. We're asking the church if they would make a change in the lighting as far as the illumination. And if so, then that would be your responsibility to do what they're asking you to do, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, isn't it based on the current ruling that they're going to have to remove the internal illumination now? Yeah.
Well, I'll have to make a
Well,
motion.
we haven't gotten there yet. But let me ask you this. So if we're looking at what the motion was, so Steve, right now then, would this, based on what we're talking about right now, would not be, with the changes, you would consider this a new sign. So we would not be in a non-conforming position, is that correct?
If it's under 50%, it would not lose its non-conforming. It's a legal non-conforming sign prior to the work. If the work was under 50%, which we believe it was over 50%, it would retain its legal non-conforming status.
I think there's someone else that wants to make a statement.
Excuse me, Mr. Cook. I'm Bruce Martin, Mount Harmony Baptist Church, 6500. I need to be sworn in.
If you haven't been
Do you
yet.
solemnly swear or affirm testimony about to give you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. I'm the pastor. I've heard talk about the church and what we could do. I've been the pastor at Mount Harmony for 24 years. This last Sunday, or a couple weeks ago. I want you to know that as far as being a good neighbor or whatever, we have shut off lights. We have turned off lights on the side of the building that has affected several of our opportunities, especially our special friends who go out that side. We have to illuminate with extra lights, with flashlights just for them, because we have tried to work with Mr. Honecker. Never one time has anybody from our church or me or anybody contacted anybody from this board or the council, never filed suit. When we talk about being a good neighbor, we try to reach the community as best we possibly can, but we also need to be safe. The sign had been damaged. A beer bottle had gone through it. We needed to repair the sign. We called a sign company. They came out. We could repair the sign. We can update it a little bit by putting our logo on the top of it. The sign had been there long before I become pastor, so updating the sign. I don't know if you've priced new signs, but new signs can be as much as $35,000 to $40,000. We didn't spend anywhere near that amount, so when you're talking about 50% of the cost of a new sign, it was well less than that. Cliff Honecker and I have talked on several occasions. There's been some bombastic conversations, communication. It's not my desire, it's not our church's desire to cause any trouble in the community. Matter of fact, all the neighbors on the The other side, the west side, have all been in great communication with us, use our property. The neighbor that lives on down the road, he's like, man, I love what you're doing. You're keeping your property clean. We have a great relationship in the community with our schools, with our community. Mr. Honaker has continually been bringing us before the board, filing lawsuits, all kinds of things that he's tried to do to kind of stop us from just doing it. We've tried to communicate. We didn't do anything intentional. He makes it sound like we're trying to brighten the parking lot. We turn the lights off. They go off by 9 o'clock or 9:30 every night. In the summertime, we don't even hardly have them turned on. I think they're on a timer. It's not my desire to argue with Cliff. He doesn't even own the land. He's a renter on the property. We have a communication with the owner. He has told us, we want to work with you. I want to work with you. So it's not our desire. We wouldn't be here. I know where I would be right now. I'd be in my office preparing for tonight. But that's what we got things to do. And so I'm asking you to go ahead and let us do this. We're going to do everything we can to try to not to cause conflict with Mr. Honaker and his family and his farm. We just want to do what's right. I appreciate what you do. I'm not going to bother you. I know you got a job to do. I'm not calling you, emailing you, wearing you out. I didn't do it with Steve. We met with Steve, had a great conversation. He said, you need to do a variance. That's what we're doing. So we're trying to comply, do what we've been called to do. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. What time?
There was no
when are the-
lawsuit.
hold one
I
second,
have not
Hold one
filed.
second. Hold 1 second for me. What time are the lights off? You said something to that. What time are
And
they
this is-
required to be?
this is the other thing that makes-
Please, just a second. Thank you.
9:30.
I think the timer is set for 9:30. I could go check and make sure, but we try to make, all the parking lot lights are off by 9:30 at night.
And that's
And that's usually the plan of what we, it may be off because a timer gets off or something, but we try not, the lights are not on, and I talked to Steve about that. There's a certain amount of time, and, you know, it's not like you can go flip a switch and turn them on or turn them off. They're just on a timer. There again, we're trying our best to keep that the way we can.
Oh, I was going to ask Steve to make a comment on that. We'll wait a moment.
I don't know where Steve went, but I
Just
have.
if you hold 1 second. Hold 1 second. Mr. Huff, did you have something to say while they're conversing?
Yeah, I do. In regards to my motion, if I wasn't clear, was to find that the repair cost, the value of the repair, was less than half the value of a new sign, and that was voted down. So, as that was the motion, because the repair costs were less than 50% of the cost of a new sign, then a variance was not required because they're not in nonconformance. But that was voted down. So unless we want to revote.
Well, I've spoken to Mr. Elliott, and I've suggested something. You know, we may be here prematurely. If it is the interpretation of codes that any repair is less than 50% of the value of the sign, it seems to me the codes could ask the gentleman that worked on the sign, or just pick a sign company, get an estimate for what it would cost to build that sign from the beginning, and then get the invoice that the church actually paid for the repairs on that sign. Mr. Elliott tells me if what they paid is less than 50% of what it would cost to get a new sign, then we've got a continuing non-conforming use, and this does not need to be in front of the board. And it seems to me that's probably the best way to address this. If we haven't determined, Steve, you said you thought it was more than 50%. What did you base that on?
We based it on, we felt like the sign was completely rebuilt. What I'm hearing here today, that it wasn't, it was just rephased.
So you think based on what you've heard today, maybe you should do some more investigation into? I mean, and one thing that would be very easy to determine, absolutely bone simple, is what the church paid to have the sign repaired. Okay, they can produce invoices for that.
Yes.
Then it's a question of what would it cost to build that sign in the first place, and you could just probably pick out a construction company and say, here's a sign, tell me how much it costs you to build this. And if you determine that what the church paid is less than 50% of what it would cost to build the sign up from the beginning, then under your own interpretation, there's no violation here, right?
That's correct, yes. And the zoning ordinance doesn't specifically say signs, but it does talk about non-conforming buildings that have been torn down, damaged, that type of stuff. When it's more than 50%, they have to meet the current requirements. So we've taken that and applied it to this sign, so that's the only guidance the zoning ordinance gives us.
May I respond?
Hold 1 second.
Thank you.
To me, you know, and I hate to insert myself in this because I'm just the stupid lawyer. What do I know? But I mean, to me, it seems that we're here because the zoning folks have declared this to be a violation, and some new information has come to light that I think should suggest that before they determine this is a violation, they need to do some more investigation to determine whether or not this sign, that the sign repairs were more than 50% of the value of the sign. And that being the case, it seems like something the board could do is just defer this matter or refer it back to codes to make that determination. And if they make a different determination, then the matter's settled. If they make the determination that it's lost its non-conforming, its grandfathering status, to use the colloquialism, then we could bring it back before the board and consider what to do about it at that point.
Yeah, and one of the reasons they didn't get a permit, so, you know, typically when they get a permit, they give us a valuation of the work, so we didn't get a permit. We have to make that interpretation of the value. So, you know, without the permit, we felt like the value exceeded 50%. Maybe it didn't, based on testimony today.
I don't know whose light was on first.
I would say I was to defer this back to and planning just based off the facts of the situation. Overturn the prior motion since that's already carried, though.
Yeah, it's already voted on.
I would make a motion to overturn our prior ruling on this matter. Since when? No.
It didn't pass.
Oh, okay.
It was just 4-3. It didn't pass. Yeah.
So we would have moved on from the matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, then I would make a motion to table this matter and refer it back to zoning and planning for further determination.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, and who was the first second? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, so, Steve, looks like you're trying to say something?
No,
No, okay.
Yes.
All right, then y'all need to get with codes, planning, someone to get them the information that they need. So they can help you out and look at the cost, and then you can determine where you need to go. And that's all for right now, so.
So things
That's
are
it.
the same right now.
Things are going to stay the
right
same.
now.
Right now.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
I'm a farmer. I feel like I was just put down in a major way by this pastor who said two false things. He said that I filed a lawsuit.
Mr. Honaker?
That really has
it's over.
nothing to do. Yep.
Yeah, I just would like to clarify that I never filed a lawsuit against this church.
So noted.
And I would also like to say that wouldn't it not make more sense to put all of the security lights on motion detectors?
You'll have to discuss that with the church.
Well, they
Nothing
won't talk
really
to
do
me.
with that.
So
Okay,
this
Madam
is the
Clerk.
only opportunity I've had to talk to them.
Mr. Honaker?
And I've been demeaned and
Nobody has demeaned you. Nobody has put you down. We have appreciated what you've said. Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Madam Clerk, if you could read the next.
Item 4D is the request of Jerry
Who has my pictures?
O'Rourke. It's for a waiver of lot intensity from 1 acre to .70 of an acre located at 2203 Roseberry Road, CLT map 042, parcel 09602, property zone ag in the 8th Commission District.
Is the applicant present? Okay, do we have any opposition? I thought they had some opposition. No opposition. Okay. All right, if the applicant would come to the podium.
Hi. You can pull the mic down. So there you go.
You'll state your name and address for the record.
Yep, I'm Jerry O'Rourke, and it's 2129 Roseberry Road, Mascot, Tennessee.
Okay, and if you would please let us know why you're here and the evidence you have supporting your request.
Sure. So when we purchased our home, we have an empty lot next to us, and originally all the area was set to be residential area, like to have plats and have homes. And so we would like to sell that lot as a residential. And currently on our tax, it does classify as residential, but when we were looking into it, they said it's agricultural. And since it's just under an acre, we're not allowed to put a dwelling on it of any sort until I come here. So I am hoping to get a variance so that we can use it, or we can sell it, essentially. And we did some pictures of it to kind of show that all around that spot, it has residential homes. It's not going to interfere with anyone else's homes. It's strictly within its limits of its lot, basically.
Okay, do you have any thing to add, Steve?
No,
Nope.
we're good right now.
Okay. Go ahead.
What is the difference in the tax being residential and the zoning being agriculture? How does that work?
That's just a property assessor designation for how the property is taxed. If it's a residential, agricultural land can also be residential. It's just, this one just happens to be a vacant lot. Usually it's residential or commercial, and it's different tax rate.
Okay. So if she had the zoning changed to RA, which is residential agriculture, there would not be a problem with the 0.7 acres?
Correct. The RA zone would allow a 0.7 acre lot.
Thank you.
Ms. Garrett, did you have your light on, or was that from the previous? Previous, okay.
I will say I went out there, and I think probably some of the others of you went. It is a very mixed residential area. Some of the lots are definitely less than an acre. Some are definitely less than half acre. It was first platted in 1924, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So I really don't see that giving the variance for this 0.7 acres would cause any harm to the neighborhood. There are no complaints from any of the neighbors, and it would give her a reasonable use of land she owns.
And that's kind of the issue we have, is right now it just sits there. And we'd have to put, I guess, a horse on it or something, but then that's something the neighbors probably wouldn't like very much, is to put farm animals on it.
Mr. Huff?
A variance sounds like a reasonable idea. However, if you read the ordinance that empowers this board to issue variances, nowhere in it does it say we have the authority to issue a variance because a lot is too small. There are criteria for shape of the lot, topography, steepness, narrowness of the lot, but nowhere in it does it say just because it's too small, we get to issue a variance. Your proper procedure would be to go before Metropolitan Planning Commission and ask to have the property rezoned from agricultural A to RA, residential agricultural, which would allow you to build a house on a 0.7 acre lot. For that reason, I make a motion that this be denied.
You see if we had to.
Would it be the commissioners that make that decision, or the property assessor?
Well, it would be the county commission that would have to rezone the property. The problem with what's being suggested, if all of the property around this particular piece of property is zoned ag, an RA zone on that one single piece of property could be considered spot zoning, and spot zoning is illegal. So I don't know if that is a viable solution for this land.
But there's not any other empty ones, so all of them are residential except for this lot.
We're talking about zoning, though, and zoning is a legislative action. My understanding is that all of these properties are in the ag zone. Is that correct?
Yes, that's.
So if you plunked down an RA zone, it could be considered spot zoning. Now, that's questionable because you're doing it, I mean, it's all residentially used property, as the lady is suggesting, but that could be an objection, that zoning normally is a planned process. This would be, okay, we're gonna do a rezoning for this one particular piece of property in the middle of a sea of other properties that are zoned ag. That's a problem in zoning. Going from ag to RA is not like going from ag to industrial or anything, but it's still not consistent with normal zoning practice.
So when I looked into this, this is the direction I was told to go. And when I kind of checked, I did see that there was 3 choices I thought I had. One is the zoning variance, which was just using the land for something it's not zoned for. And then there was the special use permit where you could be grandfathered in because of what was already zoned for. And in this case, that entire area from that first plat map in 1925 showed that all these individual lots were supposed to be residential. And then also changing the zone designation itself, which would have been based on a master plan, which was this plat map as well. So that's why, I mean, I hear what you're saying about the spot thing. I'm not familiar with that, but it just seems like with everything else being residential, its original plan was to be residential, and then all of a sudden zoning changed and now this land is no longer usable.
Mr. Holt? No, you're leaning on it again.
A couple of thoughts. I think just one in terms of authority. I mean, when you read it, variance shall be granted where special circumstances or conditions such as. So I would, the way I read that interpret is that is not an inclusive list of the only reasons that we're able to make a determination. Obviously, there's far more things that can impact unique and special circumstances that aren't the ones that are explicitly listed. But I think in terms of the avenue she's taken, this is the correct one. And if we look at this, it's all zoned ag. This is conforming. In fact, this lot's larger than the vast majority of the lots in which homes are currently built upon here. So, I think just in terms of, special circumstances, we're looking at a 100-year-old plat that, has had lots that have been shaped, mismutilated over the years. You have plenty of plats, plenty of parcels within this plat that are considerably smaller than this piece. And, I think one thing where we're just denying the use of a beneficial piece of property here when it's entirely conforming, and a single-family home should easily be able to build them upon this. So, yeah, I would go ahead and make a motion to approve.
We can hold it. We had a motion on the table.
Oh, did we?
First.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry.
We had no second, so
What was the first motion?
to deny the request. So, but we don't have a second. We don't have a second. So do we have a second to Mr. Huff's motion? Okay. It fails. Seeing that, do we have a substitute motion?
Yeah, I would make a motion to approve the request and alter the waiver of lot intensity from 1 acre to 0.7 acres.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
You're good.
You are in
Oh,
good favor?
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This adjourns the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting.